real life was there. Adulting, 1 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend.
Shoot the Core Cast.
Welcome to Shoot the Corecast, the official companion podcast to the RF Generation Shmup Club. This is the family-friendly shmup-themed podcast that may be running a little bit late, but hey, at least we're ahead of Dispatch Games. I'm Addicted, also known as Addicted to Shmups, and with me...
This is MetalFRO, also known as Game Boy Guru. If you would like to connect with the podcast, you can do so in a number of ways. You can follow us on Twitter or X at Shoot Corecast. You can follow me directly at Game Boy Guru. You can also find us on Blue Sky as Shoot the Corecast. Check out our Linktree page, which has links to all of our various feeds and things. That is linktr.ee/Shoot the Corecast. And you'll also there find a link to our Discord server, which you should join, because then you can join in with a Shmup Club playthrough or talk about shooters and gaming in general. Lots of good conversation going on in there, so definitely come check it out. Please also like, rate, follow, subscribe, etc. the podcast on your preferred platform. And also follow me on Twitch to get notifications of new streams, as I do stream the Game of the Month multiple times every month. That is twitch.tv/Guru Gameboy. We would like to welcome in with us a special guest. Once again, we have recruited Gojiguy to assist in helping us flesh out our discussion on our game. Welcome in.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
And thank you for joining, because after 6 months of this, I'm really going to have a hard time remembering.
we'll do our best. And there's a lot to remember with this game.
Yes, there is.
Speaking of remembering, I already forgot where we're supposed to be. So, are we on Espelota 2?
Yep.
With JJ Jameson? Alright. I have not had a chance to play this. I got stuck in... real life was there. Adulting, 1 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend.
Yeah, I totally understand, given the stuff that you've shared with me on chat. So, yeah, I certainly can't fault you for focusing on the other stuff. As for me, I am still inching toward the Black Label clear. I've had a couple of runs recently that were almost flawless, in that I got all the way up through the stage 4 boss with no deaths, took my intentional death at the beginning of stage 5 to make sure that I was facing regular Cesare and not true Cesare, because thank you, no, that's too scary. And then I get to the stage 6 boss and everything falls apart. I don't know what it is about that boss, but I just can't seem to find any level of consistency. And I thought that was going to be the case for me with the stage 3 boss, and then the stage 4 boss, and then the stage 5 boss. So I can do it, I just haven't yet, and it's frustrating. But I'm close. I think I said that last time, but I'm close. And so I would really like to say that I could get the clear by the end of the month. As we record this, we are a little over halfway through December. And so I think I am resolute in seeing this through, though. I may not get my arcade clear unless I come back to this game later on, but with Black Label, I have spent so much time with it that I just have to get it done. Because then, once I do get it done, then I can save the replay, I can record the replay back, I can put it on YouTube, and I can say, hey, I did this.
I love any game that automatically records your replay, because then it just makes, uploading and doing a commentated upload so much easier.
Right. I mean, it does and it doesn't. It does in the sense that it prompts you if you want to record one. So as long as you hit the appropriate button, it will. I've done that a couple of times where I hit the wrong button and then I did not get my replay recorded. But I'm thinking that I will make sure to press the appropriate button when the time comes so that I can revel in that victory more than once.
Yeah. Adds a little tension to the end of the run, where you're like, okay, I gotta make sure to hit record. Please record,
Yeah.
Or like upload the score to the leaderboards. That's happened to me a couple times where I do my personal best and then I hit the wrong button. It doesn't upload my score, and I'm like, ah.
Yes. I've done that as well. I did that with Pocky and Rocky reshrined, and so one of my character scores is just not on the leaderboard. But oh well. Did you spend any time with Espgaluda too?
Not much, because I do have the physical copy of it, and it has been in my Switch case for whenever I'm on the go. But I got distracted when I went to Tokyo for Tokyo Game Show. I thought, I'll play some Espgaluda too, but as we'll learn in this episode, I got very distracted with Dariusburst because of a few reasons.
Okay. Well, let's move on to some shmup news that you can use. Polyp, the developer of the recent shooters Flesh and USG, is already working on another game, this time a horizontal Danmaku boss rush.
Project number 30 is working on a new SDG that will be auto-scrolling and have multi-directional shooting, complete with an aiming reticle. No word on a release yet, but early footage looks promising.
Mukago Soft is working on a new shmup, tentatively titled Hyper Dagramandra. It's a horizontal scrolling game with a low-poly 3D look, and appears to take some influence from Saint Dragon, with your craft having a tail that you can manipulate. It's still early in development.
Yeah, I was watching some footage of this the other day, and it's still pretty early. There's no collision yet, no real enemy threats or anything, but this could be cool.
I like the sound of it.
The new Sonic Wings sequel is officially named Sonic Wings Reunion and will be a full Tate-style vertical shooter. Several characters from previous games are making a return as well.
Now, does this one have Amy Rose, Sonic Knuckles, and Shadow?
I think that you're thinking of the wrong Sonic there.
Sonic Wings, right? That was the Sonic Shmup spin-off, right?
You're thinking of Sonic Waku Waku Patrol Car. Was that the shmup? Sonic does have a shmup, an arcade shmup.
Yeah, it's I don't remember the name of it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And now for some stupid reason I have Sonic Wings, Sonic Wings, Sonic Wings stuck in my head.
Oh geez, we're gonna have to use that.
when we do a Sonic Wings episode, absolutely.
Yeah, please don't use the Sonic R music. It's not bad, but it will put everybody to sleep, and our podcast already borderlines that anyway, so let's not tempt fate. Operation Night Strikers will be receiving a Steam release, which will compile rail shooters Operation Wolf and Night Striker. It's slated for a 2025 release, and related news, M2 is working on Night Striker Gear, official sequel to the arcade original. Very cool. Now, Operation Wolf, they had that new one, Operation Wolf VR or whatever that was. It was on sale for $2, and I almost bought it, but I figure anything that goes on sale that quickly, I don't know. It's like, well, do I do it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I that was part of that whole Microids Taito agreement from a few years back, where they released a bunch of like new Taito games, and I don't know, like Microids isn't. I wouldn't say they're a beacon of quality most times, so I didn't hear good things about that game. But what's neat about this is that the cyber stick, that like kind of throttle and flight stick controller that came out for the Genesis Mini 2 and works on the Egret 2 Mini, is compatible with this PC release of the game, both games, and apparently it was pretty like, hey, listen, I know we're only announcing this for Steam, but there might be a new piece of hardware coming out next year that will release it on, like at the event. That's what apparently was being hinted at, is that the console versions will be announced next year.
Nice.
You're saying we'll see a Tiger handheld version of this?
That's exactly what I think they were insinuating.
All right. Either that or I'm thinking I finally got another use for my Steel Battalion controller.
Oh, wow.
Red Blue Cell from LKK Game has a Steam page now and is expected to release January 2025. This is the Ikaruga-like shooter mentioned previously.
Retrobit has pulled down the pre-orders for the Tool Plan Shooters Volume 2 collection. According to the official statement, the licensor notified Retrobit of an issue with one of the games to be featured in the collection. No word yet on what the problem is or when pre-orders will return. This is rather disappointing, because I think the hype level was pretty high for this, and
Yeah.
I mean, I pretty much pre-ordered it immediately. So I sure hope that there's not going to be an issue with Grindstormer, because that's the game that I want the most.
Same. Did your pre-order actually go through?
It did, because it was, like I said, it was the day that it went up.
Yeah. Because I waited, and by the time I went to pre-order, they were like, "Yeah, we're pulling pre-orders." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll wait."
Yeah, I'm just hoping that they figure it out and get it sorted so we can get back to getting these things on the way.
Maybe they're adding a documentary from the was it Intergalactic Space Garage?
Oh, the Intergalactic Space Station.
Yep.
No, but the Toll Plan documentary is actually commencing.
Nice.
I didn't have that in the news feed yet, but I did see an email on that from the Kickstarter campaign saying that the editing continues but is getting close.
Eartheon will be receiving an Exa Arcadia release in addition to the Sega Genesis Mega Drive and other console releases. No word yet on what will be exclusive to the Exa label version, aside from the extra cost. Also, the main release of Eartheon has been delayed into 2025. That's not too bad, though.
No. And I will say, because like part of the reason we delayed this episode was because I went to Tokyo Game Show and I could, come back and report the hot news, because I did play Eartheon at the show.
Ugh.
And it's like, it was pretty fantastic. Like it was running on actual hardware, on a CRT even, and I was just like, how did they make this? How did this get released? But it's funny because it's being built for Genesis, and it's going to get released on modern platforms, and I feel like Exa is like so much more horsepower than is needed to run that game, but I'm sure it'll have some exclusive stuff, which is always fun.
Right.
Compile's MSX shooter Gartic was made available on the Nintendo Switch eShop as of November 21st, part of the Egg console project. It's an early look at their pre-Xanac and pre-Alesta work.
Godonpachi Maximum has received its first update in 5 years, bringing the game to 64-bit, so it is now compatible with iOS 11 and newer.
Oh, sweet. So can we get a JAG copy?
Do the math.
Indeed. 64 bits. Blue Revolver Double Action is available now on itch.io and Steam and has seen a few minor updates since release for bug fixes and improvements. So far, the reception of the game's update has been very positive.
ConiPro Games has announced a new vertical STG called Conjunctivitalizer. They're calling it an anti-establishment shmup, and the main gimmick is that your shot powers up with your score. It's not slated for release until 2026, but already looks like it's far into development. It has an anime style, and the graphics have a 32-bit Saturn/PlayStation style quality to them.
And its name is so easy to pronounce, too.
I'm just glad I could say it in the first shot.
Yeah, congrats for that. I was looking at this the other day when I put it in the news feed, and I went to the Steam page, and I looked at it for a second, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a minute, and I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to make sure that I can actually say it, so that when we get to the news feed, if it comes up to be me, I can say it. But yeah, good on you for getting that one done.
That's my 1cc no miss of saying a name.
There you go.
GG, sir. GG.
Kakikuke Cat of Kathui Games has confirmed that Changeable Guardian Estique will receive a PAL-optimized NES version as well for players who want it. Also, the NES version physical is up for pre-order through Broke Studio as of early December. I still don't have my pre-order in for this, but I definitely need to get that done.
Yeah, it's another beautiful looking game.
Claymatic Games has released a trailer for the upcoming Platypus Reclayed. Every time I read that, darn, I just keep thinking of Clay Fighter. I'm sorry.
They should have called it Sculptor's Cut.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Platypus Reclayed 63 and the third. A modern remake of the previous claymation-style horizontal shooter. The game is still set for a 2025 release. Claymatic is also holding a contest looking for the community to design new enemy ships for them to add to the game. Details are available on Claymatic's website. All right, here we go. Why don't we take Mr. Bill? Mr. Bill's got to be a boss.
Oh, no! And about 4 people in the audience will get that joke.
Yeah. Everyone else is face palming. All right.
Unknown Hero is set for a Q1 2025 release on Steam from Svero Forge. It's a vertical Danmaku with an 8-bit look and feel.
Yeah, and this went under a different name before it was Unknown Hero. And so it's a little bit of a name change there, but yeah, it looks promising. Lilac Zero is a forthcoming shooter from developer Victor Podoro and publisher Digirati. It's a pixel art vertical STG that includes a melee component. Early screenshots and video show a style similar to Zero Ranger. This looks cool. So I will be very excited to see how this develops.
Really quickly in this next one here, you said Red Ranger R2 is a PAL release. I thought it was a Japanese release only, which would make it NTSC.
Oh, I thought it was a PAL release on its original.
I thought it was Japanese only.
Let me look.
I thought it was too, but let me check. Yeah, it was only in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the fact check on that.
Those Japanese in their 50 hertz. All right.
Well, but the press release thing that I read did say that it was going to include a copy of the
Slow
PAL
down?
version, because the PAL version
interesting.
was planned but never released.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I think we should differentiate that.
Yeah.
Hold on a sec here. Yeah. Rending Ranger R2 Rewind has been delayed to 2025. This is the remake of the previously unreleased Super Nintendo game that will include a copy of the original PAL game as well as the updated remake. This was the unreleased version for the Super Nintendo. The PAL version where it did come out in Japan. I swear we're going to get a remake of the remake of a remake before we're done. This is an artist composite sketch of Rending Ranger.
The decompilation team is working on a native port of Star Fox 64 to PC to include 60 FPS gameplay and a widescreen mode. That's really cool. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see all these decompilations that have been done, native PC ports of Nintendo 64 games. And so now we just need someone to do a decompilation of Star Soldier Vanishing Earth.
Yeah, I love that game.
That'll make it easier for us to cover on the podcast. The next set of releases from Opcode Games will include releases of Sky Jaguar and Thexter for their Super Game Module add-on for the ColecoVision, as well as a new Atari 7800 conversion of Univars. Pre-orders for all of those are up now.
I was trying to think of a good joke for the ColecoVision power brick here, but I can't think of it right now. That thing weighs more than probably an original Xbox One, maybe as an original Xbox.
Yeah, the ColecoVision power brick is so large it won't help you hide the bodies, but it might help you kill them.
Very true on that one. Oh, speaking of which, I think that they were available at Stone Age Gamer, but they had USB-C power for ColecoVision now. Real tempted on getting one of those.
Ooh,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I'm going to have to look that up.
The Art of Fighting. Oh, The Art of Fighting. That's what I get for having Neo Geo. The Art of Fighting is a horizontal vertical shooter. What? All right. Now, The Art of Flight is a forthcoming 16:9 vertical shooter from Et al. Games. No release date is set, but its Steam page is up to wish list. It appears to have a similar system to Shoot One Up from Mommy's Best Games, where you collect and utilize multiple ships and set them in various formations to take on enemies.
Hamster has been busy with new releases in their Arcade Archives line. Released within the last month has been Magical Night Dreams Cotton from Success, as well as early Konami Shmup Racing Hybrid City Bomber. The next release available will be Seibu Kaihatsu's Viper Phase 1. This release will include both the old version and the new version, so both are accessible. And, I guess that's out now.
Yes.
But I've heard really good things about it. I haven't picked it up yet, but it appears to be quite a good port.
Yeah, I haven't picked it up yet either, just because I've been busy, but I need to, because this is one I've been waiting on.
Yeah, didn't they announce that they had the rights to Seibu Kaihatsu stuff in 2023? And I've just been patiently waiting for them to release the rest of the Raiden series.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at this point, we just need Raiden 2 and Raiden DX.
Yeah.
Well, first you got to get 4 more copies of Raiden 4.
Raiden 4.
Wait for the remake of that one.
Raiden 4 Cross Raiden 4.
Raiden 4 Cross Just Dance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, or ride in Nova Cross, ride in Ford Mercado. I mean, geez, yeah, it's sort of like R-Type Final 2, right? The game that just keeps going and went so long with the DLC, they just gave it another name. Now it's R-Type Final 3.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. Crystal Breaker from Terrarin Games is officially available now on Steam and Nintendo Switch.
To celebrate the 35th anniversary of Gradius 3, 10 super players will lock themselves in a mental institution and try and beat it.
Close.
That's how. That's how I felt on there. I need a padded room, otherwise I'm going to hurt someone playing this game. Sorry. To celebrate the 35th anniversary of Gradius 3, 10 super players will participate in an event on December 29th and attempt to clear 35 loops of the game. This will take place on Gradius 335 YouTube page. Why do I picture that this is like one of those telethons here? If you call in now, we'll throw in a Gradius 3 tote bag.
Okay. That's insane, but
yeah,
I'm definitely going to tune in. I have to see this.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, this is going to be you're right, Addicted. This is going to be like the shmup version of the U62 telethon.
You know, any more than one loop of Gradius 3 turns into Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
P47-2MD is available for pre-order now from Claris Disc. This is the previously unreleased P47 sequel for the Mega Drive. This physical release will preserve the game and make it available for fans. Does anyone know if it's going to be region free or will it be region locked? Because I wouldn't mind picking it up.
I think it's going to be region locked from the cartridge standpoint,
but not from like the. Because I've got a Game Genie, so like I just find it annoying to punch in the codes. But
right.
What region would this be locked to?
Well, if they region locked it, it would be to Japan.
Okay. But
it might only be region locked based on the physical cartridge because of the shape being different than
sure.
You know, and so I do have a region modded. Sega Genesis, a Japanese Sega Genesis that's region modded. So technically,
nice.
I could hook that up and play it. But yeah, either way, I definitely want to grab this as well.
That is a relief to me because I haven't touched my Mega Drive I've had for a long time. It serves as its only purpose is to play Zero Wing, it seems. So, give me something else to do seems like a good idea.
You need another Mega Drive shmup to play for Great Justice.
Yes. Oh, jeez. Now, I have 4 Sega CD / 32. No, 4 Sega CD / Genesis combos lying around here, but I've only got one Japanese Mega Drive, so realistically, a lot of the stuff just doesn't get used unless we have friends over or whatever for the Addicted Family Friend Zone or Fun Zone. I don't want to go Chuck. No Chuck E. Cheese's. We don't have animatronics here, but a lot of this stuff just it sits around until a lot of people come on over. Then it's just game night.
Right.
So it'll be good to at least have another excuse to fire up the Mega Drive.
Absolutely. Bitwise Brains has submitted an entry to Ami Game Jam 2024, and the game is available as a name-your-own-price title on itch.io. The title is Battle Squadron 2, and is an unofficial spiritual sequel to the original Amiga and Sega Genesis game. This looks like it could be promising, so we'll see.
Outside Damaku's game, Red Egg All Stars has gone through some recent drama with a Western release on the Switch eShop. It was initially pulled and wasn't going to drop due to some expressions that were flagged as a problem, but Outside has stated that they will update the game to ensure it can pass inspection.
They're so vague about this. I do wonder what it was.
I do too. There was some speculation on one of the discords that it might have some some kind of drug reference, but I don't really have anything to substantiate that. That was just some chatter I saw.
Shmup Slam 7 has been officially announced. The Electric Underground will be hosting the event May 17th and 18th at Akihabara Arcade in Westminster, Colorado. That's what CO is, right? I realize my Canadian is showing.
Yep.
Alright, good. In-person players will receive priority to have their runs broadcast, as has been the case during Shmup Slam 5 and 6. A link to the sign-up form for in-person appearances is available in the description of the YouTube video for the announcement, and another sign-up form will be made available later for those who want to do online-only runs. I'm kind of tempted to, fly out to do this, because it would be fun, but I definitely want to submit a run no matter what.
That would be amazing. I am already planning on going, because it's only a 6-hour drive for me, and
that's not bad.
It's going to be way better than the 16-hour drive that I made for Shmup Slam 6. And so I've already submitted for myself to try and run Nostradamus, so we'll see if I can make that happen.
Nice. Well, I might see you there.
Cool. And now comes the time when we talk about Addicted's favorite shmup.
Yes. As you know, I've got the got the shirt for this, and we've got a mullet haircut all set to go. It's pronounced strip up.
Yeah. But seriously though, this could be the could signal the end of this running joke on the podcast. We'll see. The Strip 'em Up series, Deep Space Waifu, has been delisted from Steam as of late November 2024. Neko Climax Studios made no announcement of this, and no follow-up from the company has explained what happened. And from what I was able to determine from the delisted games site, it's all versions. So it's the original game, it's all the subsequent games, and it's all the DLC packs. So it's just gone.
Well, I think what happened was that Moss saw the work that they were doing. They hired him away to make the next Caladrius Blaze game.
Oh, wow. Let's hope not.
Hey, you still get your ride, and you can allow them this one indulgence. No, I think honestly at this point that we pretty much hit the running joke of this on here. We'll just continue on with our Earth Defense Force running joke.
Well, if Moss's A team made Raiden 3 and 4 Cross Mikado, and Moss's B team made Ms. Kobayashi Dragon Maid and the recent Macross game, then if they make another Caladrius game with the Deep Space Waifu team, I think we're gonna say that's the D team.
I'm sure someone could say double D team, but we're not going to go there.
I wasn't going to go there, but I figured people would fill in the blanks.
Oh, jeez. Yes, you might want to say you're like a dreamer. All right, let's move on. With the recent Donanpach side, with the recent DDP SDOJ, there we go, word soup announcement, we now have confirmation that we'll receive a Western translated release of the game on December 19th on the eShop. No word on physical releases yet, though if Livewire follows the same pattern, we're going to see it from limited run games, Clear Fiber games, and Super Deluxe games as well. Early footage from the trailer shows it doesn't appear to be a one-to-one port of the 360 version as expected, but will include a couple of new modes to play, including Challenge Mode, Full Story Mode, and a new character, Saya.
Yeah, I will say I haven't downloaded this yet because I'm also probably going to just wait for the physical. But so far the buzz online is really positive around it. I'm very interested to see if they manage to reduce the input lag over the 360 port, because I think the 360 port was like 5 frames or something.
Something like that.
So, Yeah. I think some Japanese users online have like claimed that it's better than the 360 version, but like until someone does like a proper test and a comparison, we won't know for sure. But
Yeah.
it's cool, very cool to see. Kind of came out of nowhere. I was worried Livewire was done making cave forts after a bunch of them got delisted. So
Right. I saw one post on, I think it was on Twitter, that somebody was playing it and said that they were playing it docked on the Switch and no perceptible input lag. Now, of course, there's still going to be input delay because you're going to have some inherent with the Switch dock, and there's going to be some display lag depending on your monitor or TV. But if they were able to clean it up enough to where it's, very little, then hey, I'll take it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we're at the point where a lot of the stuff that, even though it doesn't seem retro, but all the 360 and the PS3 stuff is really starting to come on its own, where people are remastering it. I mean, heck, if we're remastering the Last of Us games, which are not even, well, okay, they're right up maybe about 10 years old for the first one, but still the second one, not that old. It's, I would imagine that we'll start to see some more 360 stuff, or at least I would hope for Futari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really need Futari to come out.
Long overdue. So
And we need
fingers crossed.
the first Espagaluda,
Yeah.
and we need Ibarra.
And Muchi Muchi Pork and Pink Sweets and Guange and just do them all. There's no reason not to.
Yeah. We definitely need Gowang.
Yeah. With the successful Kickstarter wrapped up, pre-orders for ZPF or ZPF are now live, so anyone who didn't get in on the campaign to fund the game can pre-order a copy as well as some related merchandise. And I already pre-ordered through the Kickstarter earlier this year, and I'm very excited for this game.
Yeah, this should be good. I backed the Kickstarter as well, and probably went a little overboard with the package I selected, but hey, gotta get those shmups going.
Yeah, go big or go home.
Exactly. Hopeless Sea is a forthcoming roguelike vertical shooter from developer and publisher Potato Cat, listed as coming soon on Steam. It has a minimalist graphical style and will have multiple ships to choose from.
Exile Resurfaced will be getting a physical release directly from Einen Games this time around, rather than having strictly limited games be the physical publishing arm. Einen did confirm that there will be both standard and limited editions. So, but I don't know. What
It's
I'm
confusing.
trying to think of. Yeah, it's Exile Resurfaced. I don't even remember playing Exile at all. Is this? Do you have more information on this?
X-Out was an Amiga game.
Ah,
Yeah.
that would be why. All right, time to break out the mister.
Yeah. And so this one will be neat to explore. It's not going to be just a port of the Amiga game, from what I understand. They're going to kind of redo it from the ground up, but keep the spirit and style of the original.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. The thing that's almost more interesting than the game is the fact that Einen is doing the release and not strictly limited, because they're like under the same parent company, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
But I guess Einen games were like partner releases, so now they're just doing them themselves. I don't know where that leaves strictly limited, but it's weird. Weird things going on over there.
Yeah.
Strictly limited, forever catching up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought for certain that I would have received the Ray's Arcade Chronology Collection, but apparently that needs more time.
Well, they did ship, or they did start shipping that. At least the standard versions. The limited
Oh, they
edition
did?
hasn't shipped yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
shipped the standard PS4 version. I don't think they did the Switch one yet.
Yep. I was like, shoot, then I better go check my mailbox. But no, yeah, I know this takes time. And to be fair, Strictly Limited has done a lot more releases than First Press Games has.
This is true.
So
they have, yeah. It's a whole saga. The whole Strictly Limited thing is a whole saga, but.
Yeah, and to be fair too, I mean, Limited Run, although they're probably the fastest at getting stuff out, even they have had their own issues, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyone who ordered the 3DO version of D will have stuff to say on that one.
Yeah. All right. Yellow Trouble from Dreary Weary is a forthcoming 8-way shooter. No release date is known yet, but a Steam page is up to wishlist. It combines auto-scrolling levels with overhead run-and-gun gameplay in a sort of Don Maku meets Smash TV hybrid.
Does it have I'll buy that for $1?
It better.
Big money, big prizes. I love it. Developer BPS published some video footage of a work-in-progress concept of Afterburner running on the MSX2 hardware. It's an impressive look at what could be possible by adapting to the limitations of the hardware. I was watching this, and it's so cool what they've done. Essentially, if you think about the stages in Afterburner where you're flying over the water, they're basically taking the water as kind of solid blocks of color, and then as you tilt the plane left or right, it just sort of makes those blocks appear in chunks of diagonal lines, so you can kind of see the different grades, if you will, of color of the water. And I mean, it's impressive. So I don't know if this will develop into a full remake or demake, if you will, but I mean, it definitely shows some creative problem solving with ways to use the hardware in an unconventional manner to make a game work that probably shouldn't exist on that platform.
All right, let's see here. Location tests have been announced for Cambria Sword AC, the Exa Arcadia version of the previously PC Dojin STG. The game will feature branching paths, 60 weapon combinations to equip, and up to 80 bosses to fight, and apparently a heavy metal soundtrack. Are they pulling you in at the Exa Arcadia with a heavy metal soundtrack?
I mean, I kind of want to play this. With the motif of the game, it definitely has some Darius vibes.
Yeah.
I have not played the Dojin original, although I'm trying to remember if this is one that's available on DL's site or not. I think it might be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Feltopia is a forthcoming shooting game with stop-motion animation, not unlike Kirby's Epic Yarn or Yoshi's Woolly World. The game has no release date yet, but Woolly Games has a Steam page up for it now. The animation looks like they are done by hand, similar to those in Platypus.
Yeah, this looks very cool. The footage is impressive, to say the least. And so definitely one to watch for. And I can confirm Cambria Sword PC version is, or at least has been, on DL site. So there you go.
There it is. Boy, I tell you what.
7 Days Heroes is scheduled for a December 19th release on Nintendo Switch, and is a lighthearted horizontal shooter where you play as 3 kids with supernatural powers and their dog. Their mission is to collect data on incomplete nanomachines run amok so they can be completed and stop turning people into zombies. And it has a throwback pixel art style.
This sounds like a mix between Esperade and... well, actually, it sounds a little bit like Esperade, but pixel to stop turning people into zombies. Zombies ate my shmup. There's something in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's rename. When it comes to the Western, we'll just rename it to like Mobile Light Force 3.
And the graphics look like they're a step or step and a half up from something like Super Wagon Adventures or whatever.
Oh yes, the game with all the graphics.
Yes.
Running at 128p. December 12th saw the release of Dreamless Girl for the Xbox series of consoles. A Steam version is also available from Love Story Games. It's a visual novel shmup hybrid where you play as a girl who has to rescue her younger sister who suffers from a condition where she cannot dream. Well, is this... She should get with a girl from Never Awake. I think that should be fine. The game combines a skill tree and upgrade system with Danmaku-style gameplay.
Yeah, I know the visual novel shmup thing didn't go over super well with...
Eurokill.
Yeah, with Eurokill here a couple of years ago, but this does look like it could be neat. So we'll see.
Yeah, not to be confused with Yuri-kill.
Right.
The Western release of Under Defeat has been delayed to 2025, according to Clear River Games. They didn't give an indication as to why, but I will say I was looking online and I did find some footage of like some kind of big bugs or glitches in the current edition of Under Defeat. So I wonder if they might just be taking the time to get those patches out, and then the Western release will just have the patches baked in.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
With all these 2025 delays, I think we can confirm one thing: Switch 2 confirmed.
Wouldn't be shocked.
Everybody wants to be part of that launch lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Warhawk from Rusty Pixels and Ogre Games Limited is out on Steam as of December 13th. It's a port of a ZX Spectrum Next game, which was based upon an original Commodore 64 title from 1986.
Columbus Circle will be producing a licensed physical cartridge reproduction of Soldice for the Mega Drive. The reissues are slated to ship in March 2025, though no word on when pre-orders will be open. For a second there, I almost thought they were doing Glaylancer again.
Yeah, well, the one thing that I wanted to mention with this too is, if memory serves, the cartridges of Glaylancer that they produced did not have the beveled edges on the cartridge.
Right.
So I don't know if that means they'll change and they'll do that for this release or not. But keep that in mind.
Well, Columbus Circle has been doing other things too. They did that Shibuben Man. That was done on there. FX Unit Yuki was Columbus Circle. They do quite a bit in Japan. It's just that you don't see a lot of their Western stuff, or there hasn't been as much there. I don't know if we're going to find somebody to just open up FX Unit Yuki for the Mega Drive and determine if there's a beveled edge or not, but they certainly have been more prolific in Japan than they have in Western.
Right.
I as I understand it, Soldice cartridge version never got a Japan release. Like, this will be the first time it's coming out on cartridge over there.
Oh,
I think
interesting.
they only had the CD version. So,
I didn't
kind of
realize
a-
that.
yeah, it's kind of a cool, like a long time coming.
Huh.
Today, December 19th, Japan time, even though it's technically the 18th as we're recording this, is the release of Taito Arcade Memories Volume 3 and the Taito Egret 2 Mini Combine Kit. So Volume 3 is CyberStick compatible, and it includes the shooting games Metal Soldier Isaac 2, Extermination, Dr. Topple Tonkin Tai, Space Invaders 95, and the often requested but never ported Aquajack, Galactic Storm, and Top Landing. I also got to try this at TGS, which was pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and the CyberStick makes quite a difference for a game like Aquajack, where you've got like a stick and throttle on the arcade cabinet, and I guess Top Landing as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you play Galactic Storm?
I did. It's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like we have Galaxy Force 2 at home, but still cool.
Yeah, I mean, if it's anything like... Because, like, Night Striker is kind of like, hey, we have Space Harrier at home, but I think I actually like Night Striker a lot more than Space Harrier, so...
Sure.
If it's anything like that, I might enjoy Galactic Storm more than Galaxy Force 2. I will say, I have heard... Because I just played, like, the demo. I just played around with it a little bit. I've heard Galactic Storm's pretty tough. So, I'm interested to see, how hard it's going to be as far as a clear, but it's a very pretty looking game, and it controlled quite well.
Cool. And then finally, Dariusburst CS Core Collector's Edition is finally shipping today, as we record this, December 18th, according to Strictly Limited Games. Better late than never.
That's only like, what, 2.5 years late?
Is that how long that it's been since they announced it?
Since it was purchasable.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. At least it's shipping. I mean, the fact that they're getting another collector's edition out the door gives me hope that maybe before the end of 2025 we'll see Ray's Arcade Chronology limited editions.
That would be nice.
Are you saying it's a Christmas miracle?
I think it is.
Yeah, it's a Festivus miracle.
For the rest of us, indeed.
Yeah.
So I know this is belated, so I want to at least thank everybody who took the time to play Dariusburst in August. So thank you again. I know this is a very, very much belated thank you. But thank you to Desolus, Pony Trigon, Skosh, Ishmoken, Mr. Vastille, Tetraphobia, and Orc Commander. So let's talk about Dariusburst. The development for Dariusburst was not created by Taito, who originally created the Darius series, but rather a company called Pyramid, under the leadership of director Junichi Kashigawa. Well, shoot. Darn it, my Mark MSX is showing. I almost had that name.
Kashiwagi.
Yeah, thank you. God bless you. No, no, I'm sure. Sorry, that's not right either. All right, the development for Dariusburst was not created by Taito, who created the Darius series, but rather by a company called Pyramid, under the leadership of director Junichi Kashiwagi. Junichi Kashiwagi. I apologize. I'll just move on from this point. The game was spearheaded by Hiroshi Aoki, a former Taito developer who wanted to continue the Darius series of games. Originally conceived as a new Darius arcade game due to Pyramid's success with the PSP platform, the game moved to the handheld and debuted in 2009 as an exclusive PSP release. I am very thankful I did not go trying to summon a cat as I'm saying PSP here. Due to the success of the PSP version, Taito requested Pyramid to develop an arcade version of the game that expanded upon the ideas of the PSP release. 2010 saw the release of Dariusburst, Another Chronicle, or AC. The game went back to the original widescreen concept of the first arcade with a 32x9 display setup, as well as replicating the Body Sonic feature from the original arcade cabinet to help immerse players into that experience. Yeah, this is almost like Darius the dark ride, or Darius the carnival ride, isn't it? It even tells you, like, hey, don't hit your head as you're exiting the vehicle.
Yeah.
And I swear that they licensed technology from D-Box here. We're just going to put a sub right underneath everybody here. Everybody gets a sub so you can really feel that vibration. When I started up the game originally, I had my PS4 controller on the desk, and the darn thing almost vibrated itself off onto the floor. A revised version known as Dariusburst ACEX was released in 2011. This expanded upon the original Dariusburst AC release with additional EX mode that adds new levels and a higher difficulty. In 2012, Dariusburst's second prologue was released, a retooled version of the PSP release with some arcade content added in. This is only available for iOS and Android. While both marketplaces still list the game, it appears this release has been updated to work on modern devices. And it should do the math to get it working on the Jag.
Indeed.
The first home console iteration was Dariusburst Chronicle Saviors. This includes a port of the arcade release as well as the new CS mode, which serves as a story for the game. This release for the PS4 and Vita, and received a physical in Japan as well as a limited run games release, though that was untranslated. The game did eventually release on Steam in December 2015. And I wonder if it also holds the record for the most DLC for a game.
There's a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely in competition with R-Type Final 2 for that.
Yeah.
Darius Cosmic Revelation released in 2022, which packaged together G-Darius in an enhanced HD version of the game, as well as Dariusburst ACEX, which adds back event mode from the original arcade release, as well as allowing players to play the Murakumo. Again, I apologize, my Japanese pronunciation is terrible right now. Ship in the arcade mode, which is only available in CS mode in prior releases. It's also the first fully translated version of the arcade game. Dariusburst CS Core was released for the Nintendo Switch in 2022, which repackages Dariusburst CS with brand new content, as well as including the game card on the Taito and Sega DLC ships, retooled versions of some of the PSP content, and several new areas to play through. Darius Year 1904. Belsar attacked Darius, which had been revived by the people who immigrated from Vadis. The opening approach for the Belsar struck first with a virus that knocked out all interplanetary communication systems, codenamed Cloudstrike. During this chaos, the Belsar struck hard and dealt a hefty blow to the Darian forces, destroying the entire fleet in the blink of an eye. Out of the wreckage, 2 new cutting-edge, new model Silverhawks, equipped with brand new burst technology, as well as a little blast processing, were entrusted with the humanoid AI Terminal TI-2, as well as test pilot Riga Pratisha. Together with the Silverhawk burst fighters, the heroes face the 9 possible odds as they fight alone against the Belsar fleet.
So to talk about the gameplay of this game, I guess we'll split it into 2 sections. First about the PSP release, and then about the AC release. Because even though the game was initially a PSP game, PSP version is unique. It's also like when most people say Dariusburst, they aren't talking about the PSP game or the iPhone, Android game. They're usually talking about AC. But this is where it all started. So the original PSP release had 3 main modes. of which only arcade mode was unlocked from the beginning. And through playing the game, you unlock mission mode and burst mode. Arcade mode is like it sounds. It's a straightforward playthrough, a set of stages. Unlike other Darius games, though, you always play through Zone A and B, and then starting with the third stage, you get to pick, kind of in a branching path, kind of classic Darius style. So 5 stages in the run, and there is a total of 11 stages to play through. Mission mode unlocks as you play and acts as a kind of de facto practice mode for the game. You get chunks of gameplay to complete certain objectives, such as surviving through a section of a stage, or a whole stage without dying, or beating a boss without dying. You're given a specific ship and loadout and are to complete the mission. Once you do, additional missions unlock. And as you complete a set of missions, another set unlocks for a total of 8 different levels, each with 7 missions. As you complete a mission, that is marked with a star next to it, so you know that you've done so. And burst mode does away with the regular power-ups and provides you with a fully loaded ship from the start, but with only 1 life to play through the entire set of stages. It's a much harder challenge than the original arcade mode. And if I recall correctly, burst mode you can switch between laser wave and missile shot, like on the fly.
Yeah, you use the shoulder buttons to do that, which is a nice feature. Yeah,
it's pretty unique. That's like, there would be later ships that took on similar functionality, but like this was the first time that you could do it, and it's just built in. So the game starts you out with the legend ship, and though you can play and unlock the next ship as well as the origin ship, which is essentially the original Darius Silverhawk. The main new mechanic in Dariusburst is the eponymous burst laser. This allows you to hold the button down to fire a continuous burst of laser from the front of your ship, or by double tapping the burst button, you can deploy a stationary burst laser that you can then aim by releasing the fire button and moving up or down to aim it. The legend ship aims opposite to your movement, while the next ship aims with your movement. The origin ship has no burst laser, though. It does have a much higher DPS, so it's a bit more of a risk reward. The PSP release was also fairly forward-thinking, allowing you to record replays of your gameplay. These show up in the View Mode menu, where you can look at the game endings you've unlocked, see sketches of bosses and enemies, and also see moving 3D renders of bosses, and check the local scoreboards for both arcade and burst modes. Now, the mobile version of the game is a port of this PSP game, but without burst mode. I don't know why it doesn't have burst mode, but it doesn't. So,
That's
the
curious.
PSP release, it's weird. Maybe it's because there's no shoulder buttons to like flip through. I don't know. Then we move on to Dariusburst AC. So this includes, there's 3 versions of Dariusburst AC. There's Classic AC, there's ACEX, and now there's ACEX Plus. But they're all built on the same kind of base foundation. So what's interesting about Dariusburst AC is that they reduced the number of stages per run to just 3, but the number of routes kind of increases because you're not always starting on A. So like in a classic Darius game, you're always going to start on A, and then you have to do B or C, and then from there you have to do D or E or F, and you kind of keep moving. So anytime you replay, you always have to get through the first couple of stages, no matter what, basically. Whereas in Dariusburst AC, you can start with ADH, and then you can go down, and you can do like BEI, and you can play, 3 completely unique stages. So it's really interesting, and it's also the first game to officially have a structure to the difficulty of routes. So the top stages on the map are the easiest ones, and the bottom stages are the hardest. Now, the stages are longer than usual, and the original arcade release had 2 1080p monitors right next to each other, so it's a 32:9 aspect ratio. Again, trying to evoke the original Darius cabinet and the Darius 2 cabinets as well. Now, it's a horizontal shooting game, just like the other Darius games, but they wanted to really amp things up. And with the extra power that they had from the arcade machine, they decided that instead of creating a bullet hell game, which they felt don't always work as well in a horizontal setup, especially one that's like a 32x9, they created the concept of an enemy hell game. So, I mean, there are a lot of bullets in this game, don't get me wrong, but it'll also just fill the screen with tons of enemies. And it's pretty cool. Even though like the graphics are based on a PSP game, when you play it in proper AC mode, there's just so much on screen that it actually is quite mesmerizing.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've seen, when I started playing on the hard difficulty, say, geez, I've seen less mobs on Black Friday.
Well, and this is like the last AAA arcade shmup, right? Like, this is it. There hasn't been one since. This was the end of that era. Hopefully not the end, but, you know, this was a pretty big release.
The last big title, yeah.
Now, the arcade cabinets also included... actually, before I get into that, so when you boot up, there's going to be... what do they call it? I think it's just like original mode. I've actually got it right here. So there's original mode, chronicle mode, event mode, and original EX mode. So original mode is just classic arcade mode, and you can play through those three stages. Original EX mode is just another set of stages. So those came out with the AC EX revision. And so what those offer is just like another map with more stages, but they're all significantly harder than the original mode. Then there's the Chronicle mode, which is like a whole other thing. This is basically, it allowed players to fight through, I think it's like hundreds or thousands of stages. And you would do this, like your cabinet would basically have all these planets that were conquered by the enemy forces, and you would go in to like reclaim them. And so each time you beat a mission that was claimed by the enemy, it would clear out, and then you could do the ones next to it. So the idea was that actually, as a team, everyone that visited the game center would go through and, you know, try to claim back. Like, as a team, let's try to beat all these stages, because there's way too much for one person to do it. Some of them had specific requirements, like they had to be played co-op with 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. And this was later replicated on the home console ports, but with like network online play, so that you could pick a cabinet, and then you and random people around the world would try to clear that cabinet out. So it's really cool. It also is like a secret kind of sneaky way to practice some bosses and stages, because there is no like formal practice mode in the game. And in the arcade, there was also one last mode that was event mode. This is not in the Dariusburst CS port of the game, but it is in ACEX Plus. And these were specific limited time events and challenges for players to take on. So they might be like, okay, for this month, here's a specific like boss rush, and everyone across Japan would be competing on a leaderboard that was network linked to determine which game center had like the best players and who could get the highest score. So a lot of these modes and concepts in Dariusburst AC were designed to use network multiplayer, or not network multiplayer, use online network information exchange to build a community around the game, and that's exactly what it did. So it was really cool to see. When I was in Tokyo last for Tokyo Game Show, I got to meet up with T8884 and Imo-chan, who are like some of the top ranked players in the game. Like, they've been playing it for, you know, more than 10 years. And they talked about how there was kind of this sense of camaraderie at your local game center where you would meet people, play Darius with them. Like, it's a 4-player game. It's the first 4-player Darius game, so you could play with other people a lot. And you would try, whenever an event came up, you would try your damnedest to, like, get the top score for your game center, and everyone would kind of rally around and do their best. So it's a really cool way to handle it, and it's kind of similar to what we do nowadays online, sharing top scores and leaderboards and replays and 1cc's, but it was really in person. And I sat down with them and we played through just about every route in the game, either 2-player or 3-player, and it was a lot of fun. There are not a lot of shmups that are 4 players, and if you ever get a chance to play this game co-op with some friends, it can be really, really fun. So another thing is there are a lot of different ships in this game. Like, there's just a ton of content in this game. The ships are, so like we'd mentioned in Dariusburst for PSP, there was the Legend, the Next, and the Origin. This one, the arcade release, initially added the Formula, which it's got a slightly different burst unit, and it shoots in a closer range kind of capacity. And then updates over the course of the game's life cycle, including the ACEX update, added the ship called the Second, which is just the ship from Darius 2, so no burst unit, no bombs, nothing. You're just playing as the ship from Darius 2. Really high DPS, just like the Origin. The Gaiden, which is from Darius, so it does have a bomb, and it plays otherwise exactly like the ship from that game. And the Black Hole Bomb actually regenerates over time like all the other burst units instead of being a bomb stock. The Assault, which I always assumed was from the iPhone game, because it's the main ship in that game, but it actually released in arcades first. It has an entirely different burst unit where it shoots out an orb, and that orb deals damage, and when you hit the burst button again, that orb explodes. It also has really high damage missiles. And the Genesis ship, which is from Darius, so it has little options that follow alongside you that you can change their formation, and then you can also hold down the burst button to convert them into a laser, an alpha beam, just like in Darius.
See, I think I missed that about the Assault ship, that you could hit the burst button again in order to make that orb explode. I always just sort of let the orb do its thing because then I was going to be able to take stuff out. That explains a lot.
Yeah, and that secondary burst does a ton of damage. And Dariusburst is a game that has a ton to master. Like, there's a lot of depth to the game, and all of these ships, they've got this burst gauge. So as you defeat enemies, you fill the burst gauge, and then you use the burst weapon. But the burst weapon also can refill by destroying enemies while you're using it, right? So there are situations where, say if you're using the Legend ship, you can set up a laser by detaching the burst unit. You can set at a right angle, and there's so many enemies spawning in on screen that it can just keep spraying. Like, it doesn't lose energy. You can just keep using it. And that's where you can get into the really advanced stuff. The one final ship that you can play as is at least in the non-DLC mode, because that's a different game. We're not going to talk about CS, right? That's a whole different, can of worms. The final ship you can play as only in ACEX Plus is the Murakumo, which was introduced in Dariusburst CS, but it's now available in the arcade version of the game. And it has a bunch of options that follow you, similar to the Darius, the Genesis ship. And every time you tap the burst button, they change their orientation, just like the Genesis ship, but they change between shooting missile, laser, and wave. So it's the only ship that has that kind of function, kind of like burst mode in the PSP version. It's based off of what's that game? Tokyo. It has a different name.
Oh, Scramble Formation.
Scramble Formation, yeah. It's a Scramble Formation homage, apparently.
Holy cow! How did I not realize that?
Because you're reforming the ships around it, right? So that's a neat little Taito Easter egg. And this ship is unique in that when you use your burst laser, basically if you hold down the button, it's going to shoot out a laser, and if you let go at the right time, I think it's at least 1.5 or 2 seconds afterwards, your ship kind of glows. It wherever the tip of the laser is, unleashes an explosion that does a lot of damage and generates a lot of points and stuff like that. So yeah, each of these ships plays uniquely, so it's almost overwhelming to play Dariusburst, because when you first boot it up, you've got, how many routes? I couldn't even calculate them all, but if we just go by bosses, we can say that there's, in the basic mode, there's at least 10 routes, right? Between original and EX mode. Then there's also Chronicle and Event. But if we stick to just original EX, okay, so there's 10 routes, but then there's also 9 ships. So you could play this game for a long time and not see everything.
Yeah.
It's pretty silly. But that's not all. You can also turn your ship around manually. That's another first. In previous games, if your ship needed to turn around, it would do it automatically if a boss moved to one side or the other. And another really important mechanic with most of the ships is that the burst laser can be used to counter enemy lasers. So, and by enemies, I really just mean bosses, but there are some regular enemies that'll do this, but they'll shoot out burst lasers and they'll signal it with you'll hear a chime, you'll see a circle form around them, and then if you time it correctly, you can use your burst laser to counter their laser, and it will supercharge your laser, it'll deal way more damage, and it'll kind of, as long as you're battling their laser, it'll feed yours, it'll feed your burst laser so it doesn't run out of juice. And it takes, it's not easy to time, it's tricky. There's 2 ways to do it. One is to do it head on and try to time the release of their laser with the release of yours. The other way is once their laser is already out, you can kind of dip into it. There's a brief moment where you're invulnerable, and if you release the laser at that point, you'll kind of automatically start countering it. Of course, other ships like the Murakumo or the Genesis can counter the burst laser without any timing requirements, and then ships like the Assault, the Gaiden, the Second, and the Origin just can't counter them. Their ships, their burst units just don't do it.
I have to say, one of the things that really surprised me about this game, and it's the first time I've ever seen Darius game, is where an enemy boss started floating like an actual fish, right? It went belly up when it died. I thought that was a really nice touch that I hadn't seen before.
It's true. So yeah, that's the main mechanics of just pure gameplay. So obviously you're just fighting through stages. There's a boss at the end of every stage, and you do 3 and then you're done. Scoring in this game is pretty in depth. I would say of all the Darius games, it is the most intensive, or the most complex in terms of scoring. And what it has to do with is, because I would also say that, and I'm interested if you folks agree or disagree, in terms of accessibility, this is probably the most accessible Darius game. You can clear Route ADH pretty easily. Like, it's not gonna. This isn't gonna be a super hard game to clear. But the scoring and of course some of the later like EX stages get pretty tricky, because if you look at a screenshot of the game, you'll see that there's an indication of your shot level, your shield level, and your bomb level, just like all other classic Darius games, because you can collect power-ups to level those up individually, but there's also just a number, times 1, times 10, times 16, and that's your current score multiplier. And that score multiplier keeps going up as you destroy enemies, and anytime you take a hit, you will reset that multiplier. So you have to, like, to clear this game, you don't have to just, you don't have to no miss it or anything like that. You can take hits, it's fine. But if you're playing for score and you take hits, even if you have shield, it will impact your score negatively. So you can see there's a huge difference between top scores and, like, a regular 1cc clear score. And of course, using your burst weapons multiplies that even further. So anytime you clear a wave, you're just going to get like a ton of points. And of course each ship scores differently as well. So it's such I feel like I've been talking for half an hour. It's such an overwhelming game in terms of the amount of content, but it is accessible in terms of gameplay.
The only caveat that I will say to what you said there about clearing ADH is you're right, generally speaking, but Violent Ruler is a huge jerk, and that is not an easy fight initially.
No. It also depends a lot on the ship,
This is true. But that one definitely took me some time to kind of wrap my head around how to do that one properly. When I went back to it here just the other day, messing around with it in prep for this, I certainly did not, was not successful.
Yeah, these boss fights are pretty intense. It reminds me of Darius, where like the boss fights are pretty involved. They're pretty lengthy.
Very much so.
Out of curiosity, what are your folks like preferred ships in this game?
Talking about the arcade version, definitely the Murakumo, and it's available, just because the burst mechanic is so useful, and its burst laser charges itself back up pretty effectively.
Yeah.
So that really makes the bursting a whole lot more easy to use, and yeah, just makes it way more efficient.
No, absolutely. I think that's probably the best beginner ship. Like the ability to because actually another mechanic I forgot to mention, because there's so many in this game, but like shots nullify like shots. So like if I'm shooting my red missile shot at incoming red bullets, it'll delete them. If I'm shooting yellow laser at incoming yellow laser, it'll delete them. So like you can kind of strategically decide when to upgrade your weapons depending on what the boss is going to do. But at a certain point, when you hit green wave, that doesn't cancel anything. But it's powerful and it goes through walls. But with the Murakumo, you can always have those other shot types whenever you need them, because you can just swap your shooting style.
Yeah, it's such a cool feature, and it's something that I feel like is I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Just sort of a really interesting mechanic.
Yeah. It's something I've always liked about all the Darius games is that, I guess except for Darius 2, is that as you power up, your weapon's functionality changes. You know, like the yellow shoots through enemies, like the yellow laser shoots through enemies, the green wave shoots through the environment. So like it's a bit strategic in how and when you power up, but Burst takes that one step further. But what about you, Addicted? Do you have a favorite ship?
For me, I would have to say the Morocco. For a lot of the same reasons that Guru listed. I'm trying to also start my memory back to August here. But right now, it's... Sorry. I wish I had more to say on here, but I feel like the teacher's calling me out, and I'm like, well, it's about what I can remember is that for the most part I played with the Morocco when it was available. I don't...
Yeah, I mean, it's a good ship.
Again, I think that there is a lot to this game. There are a lot of different ways to play that, and that adds to a lot of replayability. I just remember when I chose the bottom route that it was just tons and tons and tons of enemies on screen all at once.
Yeah, and that's really when you need to learn the stages and route them properly so you know when and where to deploy the burst laser. Number one, to take out all the enemies and for safety. Number two, as you're taking all those enemies out, you're raising your multiplier. And then three, you're also hopefully getting enough recharge from all those enemies that when that batch is done, you'll be able to still have most or all of your meter so that you can burst again when you need to.
Always be bursting.
Yep. ABB. It's true, and I remember, because like when I first tried this game, it was not long after ACEX released. I was in Japan, and I went to Taitohei, and I saw this game, and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. And I don't even remember which ship I picked. I mean, I probably had no real idea about any of them. But I really enjoyed it, and then when I finally picked up a copy to play at home, especially ACEX Plus, I think I tried them out, and I really liked the Murakama, so I stuck to the Murakama. And I cleared a few routes with that, and then I tried out the Genesis, which is probably the one I'm most comfortable with. Might be my favorite. And then I tried some with like the second and the Gaiden ship, and like I must have poured a lot of time into this game, but I feel like I've only scratched the surface just because of the amount of content there is and the number of ships. It's kind of like you know when you play one of the cave ports and you're like, oh, like I got the 1cc, like I feel good, and then you go back to the main menu and there's like 6 different arranges and you're like, oh geez, like I could keep playing this game for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's like, we're talking about Dariusburst AC. The CS is an entirely different game, which is nuts. But yeah, there's definitely a learning curve to try to figure out which ship is going to work well for you and what routes and all that kind of stuff.
So is this the moment where I get to do my sing-songy Genesis does? Can't do this with the Murakamo. Genesis does.
Yeah, I like that. I just like that ship.
Yeah.
And you know what was neat is because I've been playing this game for a long time. I haven't played it multiplayer much, but when I got to play with T884 and Imo-chan, I picked the Genesis, and T884 picked the Legend. That's his favorite ship, and Imo-chan, I don't remember what he picked actually. I'd have to go back and check, but it was interesting because what the Legend could do is it could, maneuver the burst laser so that it was firing at an angle and just preventing shots and enemies from reaching us. So it was kind of like covering us and making us safe, and then I could blast away with the burst laser to get tons of points. So like you can even strategize within playing multiplayer which ships you want to choose and how you want to play, and it can really get its hooks into you.
Yeah, that's a cool feature, because I feel like so many shooting games don't really, developers give you a 2-player mode, but they don't really develop it per se.
Yeah.
So that it is really fleshed out, or so that it is maybe all that accessible to make sure that it's going to be useful, I guess.
No, that's so true, because not too long ago I went to an arcade here in Toronto with a friend of mine, and I was trying out a Kaikatana Shin. They had that on a Vulix cab there, and I was like, oh sweet. And my friend was like, oh, can I hop in and try it? And I was like, you can, but like, this is probably not only one of the least accessible shmups I know. I can't imagine how chaotic it would be in co-op. And like, we tried it, and yeah, it didn't feel like it was designed for co-op. It felt like it just had it.
Right.
It just became so nuts on the screen. Whereas, probably because of the bigger screen size and stuff, and the clarity of the design, Burst feels pretty fun in co-op. I mean, most shmups in co-op, I feel like it doesn't necessarily make them easier, but in Burst, I feel like it does. It's pretty clear. It even helps out, like, power-ups are designed in a way where, and I've only ever seen this in this game, but let's say if there's a red orb on the screen and I go grab it, it'll stay there and it'll glow, telling the other player, hey, you can come get one, and they can come get the same power-up. Like, you don't have to, you don't split the power-ups. Everyone gets one. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool feature.
Yeah. Very nice quality of life situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things I definitely like about this game, where it's fair, right? It's not one of those, oh, it's good in theory. It's sort of like new Super Mario Brothers, where thinking, oh, 4-player Super Mario, that's great, and then it just evolves into pure chaos.
Yeah.
And people are just fighting over power-ups. People are throwing each other in pits. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. So it's nice to see it's more of a cooperative shooter, and something that you don't normally. I think the only other time I've seen something similar would have to be with Beef It's What's for Dinner or Jamestown Plus.
Yeah, true. That was really designed for co-op, for sure. Man, New Super Mario Bros. Wii gives me, like, Vietnam flashbacks.
Yeah, playing that with like 2 people, it's doable, but playing with 4 people on there it just is a mess.
Yeah.
Then it turns into a game of Mario Party.
But yeah, I mean, that's the gist of the gameplay. Was there anything else that I might have missed going over?
Oh,
the only thing that sort of bothers me a little bit, and not so much with our displays now, but if you're playing this on like a single monitor and you're not playing on a big screen TV or projector, it can be a little hard to figure what the heck is going on. I mean, this game, as I said, two 1080p screen, huge 1080p screens is definitely needed for the, or let's say the TV must be at least 50 inches or a some sort of ultra wide in order to get the full effect and be playable with more than one person.
Yeah, it's definitely better played on a big TV set, or if you're playing on PC, if you have an ultra wide, that certainly helps. But I mean, I will admit I do play it on Switch handheld mode. It's tiny, but like it's definitely not as playable as it is on a big screen. It's a different experience.
Yeah, even playing on a large TV like what I have can still be a little bit, it can still be just a little bit off, I guess, is the best way for me to say it.
Yeah, because there's big black bars on the top and bottom.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, since we just talked about how it looks, let's move on to the graphics for a moment. The PSP, or for all you cats out there, the version still looks very good today, especially scaled on an emulator. The textures and designs are very nice. The arcade version is impressive with so many enemies on the screen at once, the halo effect around the burst lasers, and so much going on. The entry isn't nearly as colorful as the previous two arcade releases, though the subdued backgrounds are probably a smart choice due to the sheer amount of enemies and projectiles on screen, so the game was visually easier to parse. Yeah, it did feel a little bit more dry. I wonder if it had more color, if that would be too distracting from what you're trying to do or the gameplay itself. I would like to see at least what this may have looked like. Like a single demo stage. As we mentioned with the Afterburner for the MSX earlier, it would be neat to just see this as a mock-up.
Yeah, I could see that.
Was there anything that stood out to either of you?
I mean, I think so. Obviously, like I mentioned, when I played this in the arcade, I was quite taken back by it. It's a different experience in an arcade. Overall, a lot of that has to do with sound, but I mean just the graphics across two big screens. But I'm trying to see if I can remember his name. Like all the other Darius games, from what I remember, they used they had people from Tatsunoko Productions, the people who made Speed Racer and Gotcha Man and all that. They had them design the battleships. And for this release, they had a different, more modern designer come in to design all the battleships. And the designs are really, really cool. Much sleeker,
I'm having Speed Racer flashbacks here. Here he comes, Dariusburst. He's a demon. He's a flying demon. I'm trying. Anyway, no. I definitely say again, this game is meant to be sort of like a ride or experience, especially with the subwoofers under the seat and encapsulate you in the fight by watching. And the original Darius games were a little bit like this too. This is just more, hey, look, now we added 5.1 surround sound to Darius. But it's, I have to say, when I have a sound bar. I actually have two sound bars. The one's for work-related stuff, and the other one is just for the games. Even on a 32-inch TV, when I turned off the sound bar that was right in front of me, it really gave you that punch to make you feel like you were in the game.
Yeah.
And I guess that brings us to the next part here. The game's music ranges quite a bit from very down-tempo pieces to quite busy and intricate. The first boss theme in the King Fossil fight On the PSP version, it has a lot of high trumpet sounds and is a really high energy approach. Freedom is a very divisive track, so your mileage may vary on it. However, depending upon whether you find the vocals grating or not. Now, the sound effects are an interesting mix. The burst lasers have a nice weight to them, and the beep that the bosses emit before they fire their own burst lasers is a nice touch, along with the visual indicator. Shot sounds are understated, which was probably wise, given the focus that would be on the music and more impactful sounds for the body sonic effect. I don't know why, but every time I read body sonic, I just keep, that sonic team. But yeah, I think that more so, the graphics are understated, but the sound is the real star of this game. It really does a great job of making you feel immersed.
100%. And yeah, the music is pretty great. At least Freedom is CS only, so if you don't want to listen to it, you can just play AC mode. If you ever get a chance to play this in an arcade cabinet, the Body Sonic experience is like, first off, the game is loud, just period. But when a boss shows up and the whole cabinet shakes and these red lights come on above your head, it's like, it's pretty cool. It is kind of like a ride.
It sort of reminds me a little bit about the joke. I've got a TV cart down here that I hooked the MetalFRO up to, and I had to get a soundbar for it. It's the same soundbar I use everywhere here. But what was missing was the sounds. Like, if I can't hear the NOM 1975 yell all the way throughout the basement, it's not the arcade experience for me. And I think whenever I'm doing with the MetalFRO games, just cannot understate how much or overstate how much sound really gives an impact on the immersion in the games. Now, I haven't tried the arcade cabinet. I know that there is one not too far away, and hopefully when Guru stops on by after his Magic 8 Ball / Notre Dame's predicted 1cc run, we can head on over to Galloping Ghost and try out the arcade cabinet.
Yeah, I did actually get a chance to play the cab when I was at Galloping Ghost this past summer. It's a cool experience. I wish I would have had the forethought to put a little bit of time into the game before doing so, so that I would not be quite so abysmally bad at it. Because I felt like I was pretty terrible, but certainly it is an experience.
Yeah.
And that's not something you can necessarily say about all arcade cabinets, but Dariusburst is definitely an experience.
Yeah, I think for the people who, to give a little perspective, it's along the same lines that we start with the cockpit games like the Star Wars, Atari, or Pole Position that then moved. I mean, Sega took it to the next level with Afterburner and then the R360. Really trying to immerse you in a game, or even Virtual Racer, Daytona. Really, it's this type of experience where you can't get it easily anywhere else. I mean, the closest that you'd be able to do with this is to set up a projector of some sort and then have flashing LEDs that were timed. I'm sure someone's done it.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone's done it, but it's this type of experience that you get that's not replicatable anywhere else. And sometimes, as the Star Wars washing machine has shown us, we really don't want to. That was, I think, the one that really made me almost lose my lunch. I don't know about you, girl, but that one. Ugh.
Yeah, I almost lost my lunch when we went and did the Star Wars Battle Pod a couple of years back.
Yeah. But I will say, even though you can't get quite the same experience at home, I don't think there is a bad port of this game. They're all good. You know, and any way you can find it, it's a good time.
Yeah, thankfully, I think you're right. And I mean, it was M2, I believe, that handled the cosmic.
Actually, that was Pyramid
version.
themselves. They came back to do it. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, good on them then. Yeah, I mean, I've played it on Switch. I've played it on PS4. I've played CS on PC. Yeah, it all just really works.
Wait till the sequel comes out, or the remake comes out in about another 5 or 10 years. Dariusburst bursting again. All right. Now that we've had a chance to voice our thoughts a little bit, shall we move on to thoughts from the RF Generation community? I'll start off with Pony Trigon. Some advice for anyone starting off with this game: do not play as Origin, Second, or Formula unless you're really good at Darius. Origin and Second, being based on Darius and Sagaya respectively, have the highest damage output, but don't have a panic button like the other ships. Formula specifically deals with close range damage, so its range is halved. Also, the inability to really control the stages, which you will need due to how numerous the enemies are in burst, which is also why I heavily discourage the use of Formula. Yeah, it's a boss shredder by design, but that short range, you will miss being able to cover the whole screen with wave shot. Burst recharging is weird. In some cases, it's just naturally refilling over time. In others, it's kind of like a certain amount of enemies. But yeah, scoring in burst is just absolutely nuts. You can hit massive chains. One of the other aspects where I've said burst feels more bullet helly than other games. But yeah, it also depends upon the ship in question, since every ship aside from Origin and Second have wildly different burst types. Burst is less a hyperpoint dopamine cave multiplier beam. Oh, I gotta say that fast. And more like a big laser that shreds everything. And if timed right, the timing is extremely precise with any ship that isn't Genesis of Morocco. You can dual beam bosses with it. Burst mainly racks up a ton of points when used on a lot of popcorn enemies, and Burst has swarms of popcorn enemies. Can I just say this game is like, the soundtrack for this game is like an oddity? Goodbye, my Earth sounds beautiful as an opener track. The whole photo connectivity suite is amazing. And when we have the heck of the Yoko Ono style yelling in that song. Alright, later post. Yes! Finally, 1cc. Screw those eels. Alright, that was our unfamily friendly moment here. It really was close to the fighting violent ruler. I'll be honest, I've been a little burnt out on Darius lately, and I haven't played much Burst, so here are my thoughts. The game's music is a mixed bag. The idea of having multiple different ships is a cool feature. The bosses feel too bullet helly for my taste. But this game got me into the Darius series, mainly the second prologue. But I was spoiled by a lot by Gaiden this month, and the environments feel kind of samey to me. Also, the boss roster in other games is kind of small. Also, beam dueling in this game is weird. I might give more in-depth final thoughts when we get to Chronicle Saviors, because I spent a massive chunk of time with CS as opposed to ACEX+. But this whole series stands guide and keeps reminding me I need better glasses, because this series was built for 2 screens, and ACX Plus really shows that. I give the ACX version this game Murakamo out of 10. Yeah, apparently we're going to Mukamo, where, that's where you want to go if you get away from it all. Way down in Murakamo.
That's right. Oh, man.
you gotta do the intro.
Oh, you're going to make me do it.
Darius, Montego, baby.
Oh, my goodness.
You got Ishmoken, who actually introduced me to T884 and Ima-chan. Regarding DBACEX Plus, a good starting ship is Murakamo, super powerful, no need to learn the timing of the counterburst, easy to use, but if you want to delve more into the game, worth it to learn the original ships like Legend, Next, Formula, and the others, since the game is balanced around those. He says, I learned this from T884. Also, Genesis, once you use the burst weapon, will keep going until the gauge is depleted. You can't conserve it like other burst weapons, so if you prematurely use it, you can't reverse it and adjust. That's what makes it harder to use for me. The super players have mastered using it. Later post, regarding Thousand Knives, there is a way to cheese him, good for survival, but not for score. I use a burst ship, then I go behind the boss, deploy your burst laser to act as a shield, and then just shoot till dead. Make sure that your energy gauge is being charged. When using the burst laser while playing in the original cabinet, you will feel your butt shake and hear the deep bass. The deep bass is really something else. It doesn't sound the same with PC nor the console version. I have subwoofers for both systems, and the audio doesn't live up to the original cab. The deep wub 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 hum of the burst laser in the arcade is not captured in the audio of the console and PC versions. I can second that.
Yeah, I mentioned I think I mentioned that to Addicted the other day. It's similarly, I've got a sound system in my living room with a wireless subwoofer that sits behind my couch here, and then a soundbar right underneath the TV. And yeah, I mean, even with that subwoofer literally right behind my chair, I still don't get the same impact as when you're sitting on the cabinet and it's just right in your face.
Have you tried sitting on the subwoofer?
No, but I suppose
stick it under a
that.
bench or something.
I don't think you're going to get it quite right till you look like the Memorex guy.
I also know that a bunch of the Darius ports on Switch, and I think same on PlayStation, they allow you to set up a second controller just for vibration. So the idea being that, you split the Joy-Cons, you put them on either side of the seat that you're sitting on, either side of your body, and then you get some of the body sonic feeling. But anyways, man, I need to play the other routes more often. I can comfortably do BEI and ADH, then the other routes were total disaster for me. Need to relearn them yet again. Just did 1cc of the 3rd Silverhawk Cup for the first time. Rough run, but fun. Very approachable due to the generous shields and event modes. Good event for practicing Counterburst versus Iron Fossil and its variants. Also practice for Phantom Castle, which I still really struggle against. Those pink lasers, I still need to get the groove on how to dodge them. I encourage you guys to beat my time, 12:47.78. Very easy to beat for sure. Haha. I like these events because they're essentially caravan modes. Looking forward to all your times and scores. That's true, yeah. There are, in the event mode on ACX Plus, there are events that are score-based, and there are ones that are just pure time-based. And so they're actually just like time attacks. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I want to say, I don't remember which player it was now right off the top of my head, but one of the players of Shmup Slam 6 did one of the timed runs. Mr. Vastille joined in and said, well, y'all know what I'm about to do. and shared a photo of Dariusburst ACEX cabinet in the wild. Some friends in real life pitched in on the final boss completely out of nowhere. But yeah, that's ADI with no lives lost. Good stuff.
Indeed. Let's move on to Tetraphobia. Had to go on in real life cab of this today. It was absolutely incredible. So much bass and noise, massive screen, and when you get vibration in your seat, you see flashing red lights above your head when a boss turns up. One of the best gaming experiences I think I've ever had. Oh, I do want to add a quick addendum to that. I said Memorex, and I'm sorry for that. Maxell tape guy, not Memorex.
Oh, yes.
De Solis. Okay, couple hours in finally. This is on the PSP version. I'm having a heck of a time getting my component cables to cooperate. Turns out they aren't OEM, that's probably why. Fun so far though, the music is just so dang cool in these games I can't get over it. No clear yet, it looks like all I have access to so far is one ship in arcade mode. Here's some scores playing on normal. I'm not entirely sure how the burst laser works. So far I've just fired it straight off the front of the ship. Isn't it supposed to be placeable? PSP arcade mode, yes. Got the CEH clear with Legend. That unlocked next, so I tried DGK with next to see how it differed and somehow got the clear on that route too on the first try. I think I peaked for the day. The music in the Great Thing fight was fantastic. Just working through the easy path so far and sticking with the Legend at the moment. Got some playtime in the last 2 evenings. I've managed clears along ADH and AEI. Need to get a little more practice on Hungry Gluttons, but it should go down eventually too, I think. It's so much more chaotic than the PSP version. I think Ancient Barrage is my favorite boss so far. Yes, got the AEJ clear. Hungry Gluttons is quite the war of attrition. I don't quite get the timing on the counterburst yet. I've managed it a couple of times, but I can't quite nail it down consistently. Got a BFK clear as tonight's reward for practice. We'll see about working towards that C bottom route clear over the last couple days here. Final thoughts, and so here we say goodbye to the Summer of Sashimi. It's been a memorable one. I did a couple of runs through on the PSP, and through clear routes that covered all bosses in original mode for ACX Plus. Oh, and one route top ORV through EX mode. I stuck pretty much exclusively to Legend for my ship, with one next run on the PSP version being the exception. Overall, I had a great time, as with the previous entries this summer. My thoughts/criticisms between the two versions are mostly the same, so I'll just stick with ACX Plus as the target and give some brief notes about a few aspects. Weapons are pretty much standard fare for Darius at this point. I don't have an issue with them personally, but I know the progression isn't the greatest for a lot of people and can fully understand why. Something to change things up would be cool. Fixed burst is very useful, and there is some interesting technique in placement as an application of both damage and defense. It ends up being a set and forget thing more than it should though. This is mostly a criticism of the stage/enemy wave design. Stages and enemies feel lacking in design and variety. Being a hoary, more varied terrain design would have been nice. Stages mostly boil down to placing a fixed burst appropriately and collecting the resulting power-up span. Bosses are where it's at for this one for sure. In general, they have a good amount of variety to their attacks, and they provide a substantial challenge as you work to get everything they can do and develop strategies to deal with them. Figuring out how to capitalize on counter-burst opportunities was rewarding as well. I love the music in this game as much as the others we played this summer. It tends to be a little bizarre and all over the place, but still manages to have its own groove of sorts. Sometimes unconventionally so, and I'm here for it.
Alright, Scoush joined in and said, couldn't get past the boss at H. Got there with 2 lives once, but I was trying too hard to brute force it, and got taken out by the barrage from below. Fun to play the cab at least, and see others enjoying it too. And then, very shortly after that, got the ADH clear. I think Gaiden has been my favorite Darius so far. Just not finding the love for this one, unfortunately.
Darn it, you know you're tired when I keep reading as ADHD clear.
Huh.
Let's let's move on here before I start snoring. And it's not, no offense to anyone here, I am just tired, so I apologize here. Eat Electric Death said, finally got started on Dariusburst and put a few runs in. Also got top route 1cc. Very nice, sir. Nice music and definitely a ton of content here with all the missions and different ships and such. But something about the game just feels off to me. Can't explain what it is exactly. I don't think Violent Ruler is that bad aside from being needlessly tanky. Granted, I haven't 1cc'd it yet, but that's just me dying dumb deaths along the way there. There's a couple of spots and levels that trip me up every time. The only really hard pattern VR has is initial random bullet spraying. Gaiden, my beloved. It was almost a no-miss too, but I misjudged my position at Violent Ruler. Once I realized how the gauge charges, I began to bomb more freely. Also realizing that the bomb is not screen clear like in DG, you actually have to position it. Also with Gaiden ship, you really want to max out your weapon level, whereas some with the others, maxed up missiles are better. Are there no extends or 1-ups in Dariusburst? I'm close to ADI 1cc. Would have happened already without some dumb deaths in Zone I itself, and Thousand Knives having a couple really terrible attacks. Sorry, I had to censor that one. Family friendly and all. We're only allowed one swear per episode. The green energy blade comes out with almost no warning. Looking at the leaderboards, the Genesis seems to be the best ship in general, followed by the other burst being ships. The ships lacking at beam suffer from not being able to rack up huge multiplier and scores. Origin and Second are probably bottom tier despite having powered up weapons to compensate. Zone E and J really kick it up a notch. Thousand Knives becomes a pretty different fight with Gaiden ship. The black hole bomb quickly destroys his funnels, making the patterns easy, but he doesn't like that, so he starts using the green energy blade attack a lot more. Since the month is coming to an end, I will voice my biggest complaint about the Darius series in general, the weapon system. It differs between games and ships and burst, but generally it feels more like a downgrade going from missiles to laser and even early wave. I would have worked better as a three-way weapon system instead of a linear progression in my opinion. Gaiden has the best version, by the way, even though that has dumb stuff too, like bosses having hidden resistances to wave or laser. August has ended, and in the end I was never able to make the BFK clear happen. It basically came down to Phantom Castle having one more expletive homing attack I was never able to consistently dodge. The zones themselves and bosses, except for that one part, I had down pretty well, but I always burn through a bunch of lives and continues there. Well, thank you everybody for sharing thoughts and participating when we played this 4 months ago. Sorry for the delay again, but it's still faster than having to wait for something from a limited print company. We do appreciate everyone having joined in, and hopefully everyone is enjoying Resogun at the moment.
Yeah. Let's quickly go over the high scores here. I think Decimus and I were the only ones playing the PSP version. And so I came out with a commanding lead on that with 32,096,680 points. And then Decimus had 21,927,100 points. And on the arcade versions, Scoush pretty much trounced every one of us with 90,234,500 points. Somehow I got second place with 830,050 points. Decimus had 48,313,800 points. And then Pony Trigon got 35,109,900 778,500 points. So final thoughts.
I think that this game is great. I think it's best experienced in. I think the game is great. I think that you can get a great experience no matter where you play it. But like going to a theater to see a movie, it's best experienced, in its original authoritative or authoritative intent, which would be the arcade cab, right? The arcade cab is the purest vision that you're going to get from it, despite its PSP origins. I think this is one of those rare cases that was mentioned by Gojiguy where you can have a cooperative shmup. There's a lot of tactics and planning that can come with this, but it is there is a lot of content to see and do as well. It definitely has staying power, and it's not more of, oh look, this guy that was blue and now he's red and he takes 16 hits and is more bullet spongy. Although that probably sounds like a bad idea for a Euro shmup, right? Now with more bullet sponginess. So I am saying it's definitely a recommendation for something that's to play when you get people together in person. And that may be a little bit of a rare event these days, but I think you're guaranteed to have a good time. So this coming summer, break out the projector, break out the controllers. Let's play some Dariusburst.
Yeah, this is one that I have mixed feelings on because I have so much love for Darius Gaiden and so much love for G Darius that in some ways I feel like this game couldn't have lived up to the legend. But at the same time, in a lot of ways, I don't think it has to. Because even though it carries on the legacy of the Darius series, because it's developed by another company, and because it kind of still goes off in its own direction and does its own thing, and yet still feels like a logical next step in some ways from G Darius, it kind of straddles the fence between being wholly its own thing and being fully connected to and part of the Darius canon in the same way that the rest of the games in the series are. And so, for whatever reason, I feel like that allows this game to stand on its own while still looking back to the legacy of what came before it. I remember when I first got my PS4, because I had pre-ordered the Dariusburst CS version from Limited Run that came out. I put some time into this and didn't really get anywhere in arcade mode, but was kind of messing around with the CS mode and had some fun with that. But, I kind of knew this is probably something with as many challenges and stuff as are here. This is something I'm going to have to chip away at over time. But I was pleasantly surprised when we started August with this that not only was I able to clear the top path on the PSP version very quickly, but I was also able to do other clears and progress through that reasonably well. I was also pleasantly surprised by mission mode. I feel like the mission mode on the PSP is a really good way to practice certain sections of the game. It's got a lot of ability to practice different boss fights, and it forces you into playing as a specific ship based on the mission. And so I couldn't just I couldn't just stick with Origin. I had to learn Next, and the quirks between the two ships, and so it helps to get you further along. I haven't finished mission mode. Some of the missions get quite difficult about halfway through, and so I'm still chipping away at that. But I would like to eventually see myself through the entire mission mode. And I think if I was able to do that and then eke out a hard mode clear or a bottom path clear and take out Great Thing, then maybe eventually I could work my way up to a solid 1cc in burst mode. I will say, I didn't mention it when we talked about the graphics, but the PSP original, honestly, it looks way better than it has any right to on that hardware. And it really is a nice looking game in its original form. Thinking more specifically about the arcade version, that I feel like you're right about the approachability, Gojiguy, but it also still provides a pretty good amount of challenge, even on the top path. At least I thought so. And I really enjoy the fact that you get all these other ships you get to play as. I had fun with the Gaiden and the Darius ships, and the Murakumo's awesome. I messed around with the Darius second ship, the one from Darius 2, and that's kind of hard to play as. So definitely something to do if you want to challenge yourself. Even with the high DPS, the fact that you have no burst laser really can put you back on your heels and give you that, I don't know, just you have to really approach the stages differently because you don't have the burst. So it really is a very different and interesting way to make you play through the same levels again. Part of me wants to go back and mess around with the game with some DLC packs. Just because of the very different way that some of the other ships play. But I really wanted to concentrate on the core experience, unintended, during the month of August when we focused on the game. So I really put all my time into the PSP version to kind of see the game where it originated, and then focusing on the arcade mode so I could really get a sense of the evolution of the game over time. And while I can't say this is my favorite in the Dariusburst series, I will say that spending an entire month with it like this, after having dabbled with it back in 2018 when I first played it, has given me a renewed sense of appreciation for the game, and certainly a much better perspective on just how deep and layered it is.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. I put G Darius as maybe. I mean, it's a toss up on there or Gaiden, but those two are within my top two. This game to me is a co-op experience, or a couch co-op or arcade co-op experience first and foremost, right? There are certain criteria that has to be met for this to work. Where the other two, you could sit down, you could play it for 5 or 10 minutes, and you'd have a great experience, right? It's a little bit different. So it's certainly within my top 5 Darius games, but it doesn't beat out G Darius or Darius Gaiden for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a game that, it definitely dazzled me the first time I saw it, but it took me a while to actually understand it, to get into it. just because there's so much to it. You know, it's a little intimidating in that regard. But I mean, I definitely love the game. I haven't spent as much time with it as I have with G or Gaiden. But it's probably, you know, my third favorite after G and Gaiden. And it just offers a lot. You know, it's something that I can just kind of throw on. I really appreciate. I think one of my favorite things about it is the fact that runs are really short. So it's very easy to just go, okay, well, I might have died, but just one more run. Because when the overall run length is short and there's so many different ships and so many different options, I feel like there's always a reason to go back into it, which is really nice. And yeah, there's just a ton of content to go through, which is always good, always fun.
Yeah, it almost makes me wonder if Dariusburst would work well as a roguelike. You know, do some more randomization, if that, or even making the next one where the. Well, I know that they have one where you don't always, it was mentioned, you don't always start at A, but still, and to add in more randomization into the next game itself. I'm not saying that we need cheer system, please don't describe it that way, or shame breaker stuff, but just some other randomizations to add new elements. I think that they definitely were on the right track with this, but I was thinking in this day and age, if we do add in more randomization, in fact, now I think about that, right in Nova, for them, a lot of it really is about the randomization, which there maybe if we take Dariusburst and add in the randomization that's with that, or even Project Starship X, we can get in some more of that replayability with the 4-player co-op. Then you could turn it into a really a Twitch stream type game. Oh, are they going to make it this run? Are they going to do it?
I mean, I feel like there's so much content, like there's so many stages that, I mean, I don't find myself needing for randomness, but I do think it would be kind of neat if it was like, you know, if the map picked the stages, kind of generated them randomly, because there's so many. It could be like, okay, the first stage is going to be, you know, I don't know, Dreadful Whip, and then the second stage is Great Thing, and like, that might be a shock to the system, but it would be kind of fun to not know what's coming next.
Yeah, I don't think that we need to modify the gameplay with Darius first here, but I was thinking they've in this age that we have now in the year 2024, if we were going to make a sequel to this, that wouldn't be a bad place to go.
Yeah.
And speaking of going, I guess we're going into what's next. So for December 2024, we are going to play Resogun, or should be playing Resogun. And then in January 2025, we have the Great Shmup TBA. No, I think what we're going to do is we're going to do Sylphid. Because it was a Sylphid, right? I'm not going crazy here.
Yeah, I know that was on our list for next year. I just don't think we had picked exactly.
I mean, that one was like narrowly lost out to Tupac and Rocky, and I also feel bad because a friend of the show, Duke Togo, graciously donated a Sega CD copy to give away, and I feel like we should honor his wishes and do a New Year's giveaway of the Sega CD.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So yeah, I'll probably put something up in the Discord for that, and maybe throw something out on social media as well. But I'll probably throw it up to the Discord first.
Makes sense. At some point in this year, I really like to try and get into Devil Blade, but we'll see.
Oh, sure.
I don't know why, but every time I get like 5 or 10 minutes, I find myself just going back to that game.
I can see that.
Let's see what other games. I think we forgot to mention the focus shot here. The focus shot will be Rolling Gunner. Yep.
Rolling Gunner.
Nice.
For 2025. So I'm looking forward to that. Although I have to say, without the overpowered DLC, I do not like the controls in that game. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's definitely takes some time to get
I like
used
the
to.
twin stick approach. So let's move on to the shout outs. I'd like to shout out Etrem for the logo. Or is it Etrem 88 that we should be shouting out? I'd like to mention the Boss Pro Shmups shirt that may or may not be on sale. It seems to vary from month to month on Redbubble. Yes.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, they are still available because someone bought a sticker the other day. So, yeah, that should still be up there. In fact, let me look right now. Since we're on the call, I can verify that. Yep,
Nice.
It's still available.
You know what we should do? And this is just an idea. It's too late this year, but maybe we should do a Shmup Ugly sweater. We've got the Baras's Darius, something with ugly sweater.
Oh, that would be a cool idea.
We'd have to make something so that way it doesn't get copyright struck because some random crawler is on Redbubble. But yeah, we could do something like that. I'd like to thank Kogusu for the intro and outro music, everyone from the Press Playcast and Collector Cast. I'd like to thank MetalFRO for his constant streaming even when he's on the mend or recovering. And once again, I have to thank Gojiguy for dealing with all the crazy scheduling and for coming on and talking about Darius and filling us in on so much about stuff that I hadn't noticed or I didn't know about the series. And maybe I should just call you Darius Guru.
I don't know if I'm worthy of that title, but I'll take it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. It is very much appreciated.
Thanks for having me on.
And thanks to you, everybody who joins us for the... Oh boy, I almost said Collector Cast. And thank you who joined us for shooting the Corecast and playing along. We couldn't do this without you. It's really impressive to see that 6 or 7 years on, people are still listening, people are still playing. So it's really a great sense of community and camaraderie there.
Yeah, it's been a really good year, I think, for people joining the Discord, joining in and playing the games with us and really engaging in what we're doing. So very grateful for that.
Yep.
And with that, we'll say thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you again next time.
Yep. Drink your Ovaltine.